Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am Dr. Claudia Albers, Planet X research and professional physicist. And today I'd like to bring to you another one of my articles. This one's entitled Time Flow Rate Altered, Earth Facing Sun at Night. Now, figure 1 below shows a pink sky over Greenwich, New York on April 4th, 2019, and the yellow sky over Almaty in Kazakhstan on April 6, 2019. Both events occurred in the night sky, and since Almaty is 10 hours ahead of Greenwich, the two events seem to have occurred about 1.5 days apart. The two locations are at the same latitude, in other words, 43 degrees north, and close to 180 degrees apart in longitude, which means they occurred at basically opposite sides of the Earth. And here you can see how pink the skies were. Obviously an object emitting pink light in the sky, and this bright yellow skies. Again, these are night skies. So the objects were seen in the night sky. And so this shows you where Kazakhstan is. Almaty is the capital, is in the southeast of the country here somewhere. The country borders China and Russia, Russian to the north, China to the east. So the other observation was here. So basically on the other side of the planet, but at the same latitude, 43 degrees. Now, this indicates that there was a pink light emitting object in the sky over Greenwich, New York on the night of April 4th, 2019, and there was a yellow light emitting object over Almaty, Kazakhstan on the night of April 6, 2019, about 1.5 days difference. Since the light was only visible at these locations and not over a larger portion of the surface of the Earth, the light emitting objects had to be close to the Earth, perhaps even inside the Earth's atmosphere, as these would have to be Planet X system stellar cores, in other words, part of the energy depleted core systems or planets and stars which were destroyed several thousand years ago due to the energy depletion, and that have been coming into the solar system for thousands of years in order to absorb energy from the sun and its planets. And these objects enter both the sun's and the Earth's atmosphere. You may look at Article 785 and Article 786 for more details on that. This illustrates how light cannot be blocked by the sky simulation system. If they cannot block these low-intensity light-emitting objects, then they cannot stop the light from the sun from reaching the Earth either. And that's the reason why they are sun simulators in the sky, is because they are there to replace the sun, not block it. Since even the star constellations are simulations, we cannot even tell which way the Earth is facing at night just by looking at the sky. And you may look at Article 723 entitled The Sun is Gone, the Sky is a Simulation for more details on that. The sun has thus been replaced by sun simulating devices in the atmosphere and a grid of sun simulators in orbit, since a balloon flight revealed at least 4 of them around the balloon's location when it reached its maximum altitude, which would have placed it way above cloud altitude, so at the edge of space. And you can see these images here. These ones show the sun simulator becoming dimmer and going out completely. So this is an artificial light source that simulates the sun. Obviously, it can just turn off. And for more details on that and more images that actually show that there were at least 4, perhaps more, around the balloon's location, you may look at Article 771. However, the fact that the objects are emitting enough light to illuminate the sky indicates that they have been in the solar system for some time, as they have had time to absorb enough energy to now emit light intense enough to illuminate the night sky. But since they were seen on these 2 days, and there have not been any more reports of this type of illumination of the night sky since then, the objects most likely made a close approach to the surface and then moved away from the Earth, so that their light was no longer observed. However, if they had been in orbit around the Earth, they should have been approaching several days before and after reaching perihelion. So they should have been close to the Earth for a few days. And as pink and yellow skies, perhaps not as bright as those seen on Figure 1, but bright enough to be noticeable, should have been observed several days before and after each object was observed in the sky. But they were not. So they were not in orbit around the Earth, and must have thus come in from the sun. And this means that the Earth is not facing the sun during the day, and that therefore time has been altered. In other words, it was night time according to our clocks when the Earth was facing the sun and the objects came in. This is illustrated by this diagram, how the object, for example, the pink one, if it had been in orbit around the Earth and it reached perihelion on the night of April 4th, it should still have been close to Earth before, a few days before and a few days after. And so it should still have been observed the night after or the night before, but it was not. There were no reports of it being observed. So that means it was not in orbit around the Earth. Both objects were not in orbit around the Earth. So that means that they had to come from the sun. So they came in from the sun. They came in from the direction in which the sun is. They came from the sun, which means when they arrived at Earth and were observed, they had just arrived from that direction. So that direction was the direction in which the sun is, but it was nighttime. If the sun was shining, and notice I drew it dark brown here because the sun is not emitting light. If the sun had been emitting light, this would have been the daylight part of the Earth, and they would have arrived during the day. This is the nighttime. The back side of the Earth here is the nighttime side of the Earth. At least it was when the sun was shining. It should still be. This is when we're supposed to see the constellations that are out there. But obviously, the objects arrived when it was nighttime. So that means that when we think it's nighttime, we're actually facing the sun. And that means that time has been altered. That our clocks, our calendars, our time of day has been altered. And I showed in article 414 entitled "By How Much Can Time Be Artificially Changed?" that time could have been artificially speeded up by a maximum of 9.5 days over a period of 20 years, since the sun appears to have gone permanently dark by 1998. And you may look at article 536 for details on that. And that is without it being noticeable in the radioactive decay rates by keeping the change within the uncertainty of measurement of radioactive decay rates, which is 0.13%. And this is because if time is speeded up too much, then the radioactive decay rates would seem to have slowed down. But by keeping the change within the uncertainty of the measurement, the change would be undetectable. Time could have been slowed as well, but I think the powers that be would think it more advantageous to seem to have a few extra days rather than a few less days. This way, when people think they are at the beginning of a year, it is actually a few days before the year actually begins. And if something is likely to happen on God's calendar at a certain time, it would seem as if God is late. Now, the 9.5 days is what is obtained at the maximum uncertainty of 0.13%. If one uses 0.1%, then each day would be shorter by 1.44 minutes, and time could have been altered over 21 years by 7.7 days. Now, this diagram illustrates what makes a star. And what makes a star is its core, because all the matter that a star is made of is created by the core. This is how everything is in the universe. And cores split as matter is created, so that pieces of the core move out with the matter as it spreads from the center. So whatever is in the sun is not just one core, it's a system, it's a core system. And what happens is part of its core is then ejected and it starts creating its own matter and it turns into a planet. So the sun's core system is not just cores that are inside the body of the sun. There are parts of the sun's core system that are outside its body. Those are its planets. Thus, Earth, as the sun's planet, is a part of the sun's core system, and it is thus likely that the Planet X stellar cores move around the sun, connecting to the sun's core system inside the body of the sun, and then move out towards its planets and make connections with them, and thus make the rounds to all the sun's cores, extracting energy from each. This means that all the systems that have arrived in the solar system will be doing the rounds around the solar system and will be coming to the Earth at various times. The fact that the sun seems to have gone permanently dark by 1998 suggests that this was around the time when the number of Planet X systems which had arrived had become too numerous and were withdrawing so much energy that it became impossible for the sun to continue to emit light. However, with the pink, yellow, and red light emitting stellar cores close to the sun, there is most likely light coming from these objects, but it will be too dim to be detectable from the Earth. The sun's 93 million miles away, and it is only when these objects get very close to the Earth, and probably only when they enter the atmosphere, that they become visible from the Earth's surface. Although they should become visible if they were to remain close to the Earth for several days. Now, in conclusion, pink and yellow light-emitting Planet X stellar cores illuminating Earth's night skies on two different occasions indicates that the objects are coming in from the sun, that the stellar cores are doing the rounds around all the sun's cores, of which Earth is one, and when it appears to be nighttime, according to Earth's clock, the Earth is actually facing the sun, i.e., had the sun been shining, it would be daylight. And that thus time has been artificially altered by making each day a little shorter than 24 hours for perhaps 20 to 21 years now. And these are the references. This is Dr. Claudia Albers, Planet X physicist. Thank you for watching.